out here. This track in.
Yeah.
Oh, he is. What is that lever?
Oh, it's so today, this is a very small van, railroad. What is that? Short in the railroad, passenger service. Actually, in fact, the railroad is everything about this country, even generations before we were born. Because the expanded the country, towns were born and grew through the railroad. Military personnel will utilize this throughout the American Civil War and throughout the United States. Also, passenger service, many competitive railroads. Now, your business, just like the railroad, you were trained to win over the business of passengers. To do so, you will offer different amenities, different services, dining services, on the entrance too, such as your bag and combine from. You have a grill car in the cockpit. You have sleeper service. All of those during the latter part of the 1950s, when the railroads start to have to compete with the good interstate highway system, the same automobile and more affordable air travel. You start to see the rapid decline of passenger service. Railroads merging down the road, merging into other railroads, and the railroad that is essentially the death knell in the cost of passenger service for the railroad in America. Now this is a working rail yard. This is not a food shop. This is a real working rail yard. Our facilities here, we do all of our maintenance, restoration, rebuild, this is historical equipment. We have two sides of the business. We're a non-profit museum, but we're also an operating railroad. We have contracts with switching and freight service for different businesses around town. We also have a contract with Volkswagen. We're the company that built those trains, those auto racks, set those up when they actually come up into the yard to talk about the papers all over the country. We'll point out some of the other pictures along during our tour today, some of the locomotives here. We're about to
Oh, she is right in the southern.
One to allow everyone to get off and then back up and allow the garbage back to get out. And when you get a call, please take your time down to the steps. If you want to see the turntable demonstration, you're going to step off, take a left, continue walking all the way alongside the plane, past the locomotive. We're going on a couple of steam locomotives. Take it down. I'm going to talk to you briefly about the turntable. We'll bring the engine on. I'll talk to you about the history of our 630.
Right of the southern. That's 610. No, 610.
Ooh.
Today we're going to talk about not only the turntable, but historically the way turntables were used before they were non-motorized tables. At the time before they were motorized like we have here today, we have a 25 horsepower motor to turn our engine today. Inside the shop, we have, once we take you over to that part of our tour, we have 4 different coaches. All of the coaches we're using on the train today are lightweight coaches. So they were post-World War II. Generally speaking, we have our 1947s, 2 1947 coaches, and the 2 in the middle are 1949. If you can look and see the coach over here with a higher roof on the coach, that's a heavyweight. All right, and we have a lot of heavyweights as well. We have a unique situation in one of our cars that was originally built 906 that we passed by in the yard just before the Clover Colony. You may have seen that, by the way. The Clover Colony was a Pullman sleeper built in 1920, and some of the scenes from the movie Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe were using that particular car when it was on the West Coast. Both of those are heavyweight coaches, just like they sound, heavier weighted materials. Generally throughout the 1900s, 1920s, and 30s, and around the 40s you start to see lighter weighted cars, lighter weighted materials. And also, pretty synonymous with those lightweights are those rounded roofs, okay? Those heavyweights generally had those clear story roofs, and the ceilings were a little higher inside, and those ornate fixtures all the way along the ceiling. This turntable was originally built in 1916 by the American Bridge and Iron Company in Pennsylvania. It's about 80 feet long. It weighs about 80 tons, and about 150 tons of steam locomotive will be pulled onto the 80-ton turntable. Remember, early on, with the old technology of the steam locomotives, thus was born the turntable. The turntable is needed because locomotives were not designed or built to run long distances, and certainly not at high speeds in the backward direction. So you're going to need a turntable, or you'll see the engine run the Y on the return. It's going to run up the base leg of the Y. It's going to clear the switch. When it rolls over a spring switch, they switch the engine around on the east leg of the Y all the way to the top of the hill where you came in, and switch it and run to the front side of the station, which is the west leg. So either one of those two features is very important, especially in terms of a steam locomotive. Now we have that 25 horsepower motor, but we could, just in case, I'll need some volunteers in case we have a malfunction with the motor to help me get this engine turned around. But to give you an understanding of just how heavy, the amount of weight that will be present, combining the turntable's weight and the engine. An average school bus weighs 13 tons. This is 80 tons by itself. Kids, I need your help on this, okay? If I looked at you and I said, name a dinosaur, what's the famous dinosaur you think of? T-Rex? Generally, that's what people think of as a T-Rex. That's like the rock star of dinosaurs, right? That's a 9-ton dinosaur. You have to have a lot of dinosaurs or school buses on here. It would be possible to turn an engine, like the 630 or other engines like it, around by hand, but you got to get the weight of your locomotive balanced on the table. In the center of this table, and about 6 feet in diameter, is a bearing. All right? Too far that way, all right? The wheel over here is not going to meet the rail. Too far this way, vice versa, you're going to have a very difficult time. Now watch for the far end of the table to drop down and become flush with the rail just on the other side of the table here. That will indicate the balance of the 630 on this table. And there we go, we're ready. Ladies and gentlemen, locomotive 630, railway. Built as a K class, later as a KS1 class, when it was rebuilt about 1916 or so. What's significant about this locomotive? First, we're going to cover a few things. The wheel arrangement on this locomotive is that of a 280. Alright? You count wheel arrangement based upon wheel set. 2 or more means it was black. You can see the twin, triplets. Well, look at these twins right here. This is your 2. All those lead wheels or pilot wheels, that's the 2. Start walking back, you see larger driving wheels. 4 on both sides instead of 4, so that's 2. 4 plus 4 is 8. And 0 underneath the cab. The 4501 over there, the other operational steam locomotive we have here in our fleet, is a 282. But you can see a 440, 480, 210-2. All of those represent the wheel arrangement. If that makes sense to you. So now you know the formula. Now, so many hundreds and thousands of steam locomotives were being scrapped. When the technology of diesel locomotives came to fruition, you start to see this technology disappear very, very rapidly. Some people in the United States and other countries had the foresight for preservation and somehow saved these locomotives from being scrapped. But some of these locomotives were sold to short line operations or smaller operating railroads second hand. That's what happened with the 630 and the sister engine that's understored in North Carolina in 722. It was sold to the East Tennessee and West North Carolina and operated second hand on that line. Now in the latter part of the 60s, Southern Railway realizes that steam excursions become popular again, and they want to capitalize, and so they go back to the same railroad that they had sold this locomotive to, offer up 2 relatively newer diesel locomotives. And certainly, that newer technology, that railroad's going to take them up on that offer. The 630 and 722 go back to the possession of the Southern Railway. And they are safe and obviously operational for you today. A tree fireman, that is a hand-fired locomotive. A tree fireman up there shuttling from the coal from the tender to the firebox. Let's give them a round of applause up there in the cab. Can't imagine how hot and humid it is up there in the cab. We appreciate them in their service today, operating our locomotive, our train, to and from Grand Junction, State East Chattanooga. Now they're going to take this locomotive all the way to the other end of the yard, where they're going to clear the switch, bring it down to a stop, switch back to track 1, back up and recouple. 1904, built by the American Locomotive Company. We just turned this engine on a 1916 turntable. Not every day you see that. Now, in just a few moments, if you'll meet me down towards the back of the train there, which by the way was the front of the train on our way down, wait for me there. I'm going to take you across the walkway over to the back shop facility. We'll explain some of the equipment outside once we get inside the shop itself. There's also restroom facilities located here in the gray building just on the other side of the blacksmith shop, so right this way, please.
Our back shop. Now, Robert M. Soule was one of 2 founding members of the Tennessee Valley Railroad Museum. I talked about individuals in this country who had the foresight for preservation. Now, that's exactly what occurred with Mr. Merriman and also Mr. Soule. Now, they started off very small. Now, the 4501, the other locomotive we have in our fleet, built in 1911 by the Baldwin Locomotive Works. And occasionally we operate a double header and we're permitted to
Somerville.
A 1904 engine in our 1911 4501.
Somerville.
An understanding of how important history is and just how limited some of the equipment that you'll find here in our fleet. The 4501 was the very first in its class. It was a 282 Mikado. That's the wheel arrangement. Mikado in Japanese means emperor, a ruler. Because that railroad was actually being ordered by Japanese railroads, disassembled, sent overseas, reassembled there, and they would actually utilize that locomotive, that class, on Japanese railroads. Now during World War II, due to obvious reasons, it was not known as a Mikado. It was known as a MacArthur. That was the very first of the original 282 ordered and built for the Southern Railway, and there's the only one left. It was not scrapped. So not so significant early on in his career, but certainly significant today. So that gives you an understanding of just how important the history that we're inundated with right now, surrounding us, providing the history on the way over. You'll be returning on the living history we've done on the way back. Now this building is known as a back shop. Now if we were a large passenger railroad, we would have separate buildings to accommodate work on our coaches, our dining cars, our sleepers, our standard coaches.
See that dome?
Because a museum,
That dome car doesn't
and I'm talking about in operating railroad, we also make
cut off
that
by the
equipment
tunnel.
too.
And it goes to Somerville and Chicken.
Is where we do a number of restoration and maintenance type of jobs.
So they just stop
So you can see
together to pick up that
diesel
clock and they go on the
dining
other
cars.
track.
This car was built in 1947 by the Bug Company for the Richmond Freight Storage of Potomac. We have a car back here that was built in 1947 originally for the C&O, for the Chessie. Only operated for a few years at the Dome Observation that, by the way, will fit to the tunnel. The Algonquin, the Dome Observation Car, we also operate that railroad on the Hawaii trips. You have to take that equipment and bring it down here to service. It will not fit to that tunnel. So we have to bring it up the main line at the 23rd Street interchange and bring it up the old belt line back it into the yard here. You have a 1926 business car over here, originally built as a sleeper, rebuilt in the 50s as a office car for the Southern Railway. Why do they call a building with this railroad and all railroads a back shop? That is B-A-C-K shop. Why do they refer to this building as a back shop? Any guesses? That's a good guess.
This is the shop in the back.
Hey, where's it located? In the back. In the back of your rail property, your rail yard, out and away, not right out in the middle of where you're trying to operate your railroad, your business. You don't want it right smack dab in the middle of where you're trying to continue operating that railroad. Because quite literally, on an occasion, you have to take a apart completely, whatever it may be, a coach, a locomotive, and where you're doing that type of work, Definitely don't want it out in the middle of where you're trying to operate the railroad. You have several different features inside this shop. Now, it's divided up into two main sections. Generally speaking, if it's towards the back of the building, it's going to take a little longer than anything up here closer to freedom, as I say, towards the main door. That's not always true. But the 630 pulling our excursion today, our trip, while it's never local, was in the back of this building for 10 years. Okay? That's because we were restoring it as we had the financial means and the manpower to do so. Alright? Now, just to give you an example, if we were to go back, that's a 1904 engine. Let's say we had our DeLorean with our flux capacitor, walking back to the future, and let's say we take it back to 1920, and we were given a job, along with some crew, to take the 630, tear it all the way down, put it back together, reassemble it, and put it back in operation. How long do you think it would take us to do that in 1920? Just a guess.
10 years.
What was that?
10 years.
10 years.
Few days.
About a month.
Yeah, I'd say a month.
About a month.
They had all the parts.
Why? Why were they able to do it so quickly?
They had the parts and the people.
They had the works then, right? That's what you were operating. Steam locomotives. Just like your countries, your older cars. You had the parts of availability. Here we are, 2021. You think you're going to be able to find some of the parts needed to restore a 1904 steam locomotive?
No.
It can't be reused from that particular part on that particular locomotive or coach, or one like it. It has to be built or fabricated from scratch. That is done here on site. In fact, this is the only facility in North America where we have the capability to do all driving wheel work. Now, there are a lot of museums out there, Rockford, some in the Northeast, some out West, and they have incredible trucks with incredible equipment and machinery. But this is the only one that can do all of the driving wheel work. We have a wheel leg. You can't see it, but just below the American flag back there is a wheel leg, or a wheel shop that came from Poland after the Second World War. You have your fifth here. That's a no-brainer. All the undercarriage work, rebuild, restoration, maintenance, can be done just like you take your car and get the whole thing, alright? The 10-ton crane moves around anywhere in the shop we need to. We have those, see that orange jack there. There's a side here, the alignment, and the main operation focus to the left. Each of those jacks has 35 tons of capacity. So, if we wanted to, and we have, we take the body of this car, we take everything off, we remove the body from the truck, we take and pick it up with a crane, we take one of our locomotives and we slide the truck right out from underneath. Okay? That requires that type of work, that type of machinery. The two parts of a back shop, the front part of the back shop, the back part of the back shop, and also the front part of the back shop. Now the 4501 took 2 years to restore. That's about $800,000 for the 630, a little over $800,000. And that's more about $1 to $1.5 million for the 4501. Again, because of fabrication, all the things that were needed and necessary. So, I want you to understand today that this is not something that we take lightly. This is not something that all of us are standing out here front center talking about, but all of us have in common love and passion for what we do. And that's the only way we exist. It's just like anything else. If you've ever sat in the classroom with someone, a teacher who's just talking like this, and they're really, you can tell they were really not that interested in what they were trying to convey or pass that information to you. Because it can't just be information. There has to be passion, there has to be enthusiasm, there has to be a love of what you're doing for you to remember and appreciate it. Someone took the time. These skills are not common knowledge anymore. You can't go to university and know how to restore steam locomotives. Someone passed that to the next person who passed to the next person generationally. And here on 4th of July, please remember this. Everything about this country, everything before we were even a glimmer or a gleam in the eyes of our parents and our grandparents and their grandparents, this country was changed because of the railroad. We're able to stand here today and talk about not just history. I have draw a race where I say history, but I have to put something in front of that for me. It would be your history. Yours. It belongs to you. You're a part of it. Thank you for being a part of it today. We appreciate it. Please continue to bring yourselves, your family, your friends back. Continue to check some of the updates on our TVRM.com website, our Facebook pages. Send us a message, give us a call. Please, we want you to continue to be a part of it. And if it's something that interests you, if it's something you want to be a part of, we will put you to work somewhere. So, you will miss your bag, and then we'll have your bag. We'll let you know, make a general announcement.
It's going to be a lot less smoke. No, that's the emergency. It's emergency brake. Don't touch that. It's a metal car.
I know. Crazy, isn't it?
Did you see the auxiliary tender?
Yeah. What do you see? Shot.
I already got the shot.
That one?
Yeah, the auxiliary.
Oh, you see some food. Popping away.
Yeah, I know. You're right. Yeah, that's an auxiliary tender. It's just water. 4501 doesn't use it. Oh, 630. Oh, wow, full throttle. Oh, he did that. And black smoke. Well, not nearly full throttle. You would hear full throttle. Yeah, probably. Barely. okay back here? Oh, yeah. Good. We appreciate you running.
Thank you so much. We'll be arriving shortly, and we'll have you exit. Watch your step on the way down. Thank you so much.
Get ready.
I can get over there quick enough.
Record the camera.